The carnage in Benghazi is over. The story shifts to Washington. Here's Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry.
Since our founding, the United States has been a nation that respects all faiths. We reject all efforts to denigrate the religious beliefs of others.
September 12th, in the Rose Garden, President Obama seems to embrace an idea he and his top aides will advance more explicitly over the next 2 weeks, that Ambassador Chris Stevens and 3 other Americans were killed in a spontaneous riot over an anti-Mohammed internet video and not a planned attack. He does use the term terror, but only in a general sense, in the context of the September 11, 2001 al-Qaeda attacks.
No acts of terror will ever shake the resolve of this great nation, alter that character, or eclipse the light of the values that we stand for.
He gives an interview to CBS's 60 Minutes shortly thereafter. He says nothing that has happened has made him second-guess his policies in the Middle East since the Arab Spring.
I was pretty certain, and continue to be pretty certain, that there are going to be bumps in the road.
Because Nevada is a battleground state.
That afternoon, the president leaves for a campaign trip to Las Vegas.
The President of the United States did not postpone a campaign event, even though we had been hit.
I said at the time, I thought that was the biggest political strategic mistake of the Obama campaign.
Dana Perino was the White House press secretary in George W. Bush's administration. She's now a Fox News host.
Just imagine if he would have said, as commander-in-chief, it is important for me to stay back here at the White House. Just imagine, everybody would have thought, wow, how responsible.
Once the president had made his statement, I'm not sure what he should have done.
Democrat Eleanor Holmes Norton represents the District of Columbia.
Are we supposed to sit in mourning for several days and not go about our daily business?
September 13th, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton suggests the attack was just a spontaneous demonstration about the anti-Islam video.
There is no justification, none at all, for responding to this video with violence.
Current White House Press Secretary Jay Carney says so flat out the next day.
These protests were in reaction to a video. We have no information to suggest that it was a pre-planned attack.
And later that day, when the President and Secretary of State greet the deceased at Joint Base Andrews, Clinton talks again about the video.
We've seen rage and violence directed at American embassies over an awful internet video that we had nothing to do with.
September 15th, California authorities haul Nakula Basili Nakula, the man who produced that video, in for questioning and marched him in front of TV cameras.
Do you have any regrets?
September 16th, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Susan Rice, goes on 5 Sunday talk shows, repeating the same story each time.
What happened initially was that it was a spontaneous reaction to what had just transpired in Cairo as a consequence of the video.
My reaction was, where's Secretary of State Hillary Clinton?
To John Bolton, who served as UN ambassador under George W. Bush, the choice of Rice is telling.
From my own experience, when you're a senior American official, you don't go on the Sunday talk shows unless you're the White House choice. So that to me is an indication that there were already internal difficulties within the administration, and that perhaps Secretary Clinton wasn't seen by the White House as the best spokesperson for what the administration wanted to say.
September 17th, the State Department.
Does the United States government regard what happened in Benghazi as an act of terror?
Again, I'm not going to put labels on this until we have a complete investigation, okay?
So you don't regard it as an act of terrorism?
I don't think we know enough. I don't think we know enough.
From my experience,
former Obama State Department spokesman P.J. Crowley.
First reports inevitably have information that is correct and information that may be misunderstood or incorrect.
They panicked. They panicked.
Former White House Chief of Staff John Sununu is now a senior advisor to Republican Mitt Romney's campaign.
This is purely a political reaction in a White House that had prepared itself to establish a narrative of a president getting rid of the threat of terrorism, using the death of bin Laden to focus on that, and waking up one morning and finding out that terrorism on 9/11 of this year was back full-fledged and even killing a U.S. ambassador.
I don't see a political agenda here, I see the fog of war. It's not about politics. It's about the difficult task of reconstructing what happened.
September 18th.
Did the administration have any sort of heads up that violence was increasing specifically in Libya before the attack?
I'm not aware of any, Ed. This is a matter that's under investigation in terms of what precipitated the attacks, what the motivations of the attackers were.
That night on The Late Show with David Letterman, the story seems to shift slightly. President Obama says the video did spark Muslim outrage, which terrorists then exploited to attack and kill Ambassador Stevens.
You had a video that was released by somebody who lives here, sort of a shadowy character. This caused great offense in much of the Muslim world. But what also happened was extremists and terrorists used this as an excuse to attack a variety of our embassies, including the consulate in Libya.
September 19th, Capitol Hill. The head of the National Counterterrorism Center testifies and plainly states what most everyone already knows.
And I would say yes, they were killed in the course of a terrorist attack on our embassy.
September 24th, ABC's The View.
There's no doubt that the kind of weapons that were used, the ongoing assault, that it wasn't just a mob action.
The next day, September 25th, the president mentions the video 6 times at the United Nations.
There's no video that justifies an attack on an embassy.
October 8th, at a San Francisco fundraiser, President Obama pushes the idea the threat from al-Qaeda is waning.
And today, al-Qaeda is on its heels, and Osama bin Laden is no more.
Then, the next day, October 9th, the State Department provides off-camera a blow-by-blow account of the Benghazi attack. Reporters learned the compound was overwhelmed by an organized assault, fighters armed with machine guns, mortars, and possibly rocket-propelled grenades. October 10th, Congress holds a contentious hearing on the attack in Libya, and Americans learned that State Department officials, despite being warned of escalating attacks, refused to beef up security in Libya. The shocking revelations made the first question in the next night's vice presidential debate all but inevitable.
I would like to begin with Libya.
And turned questions about what really happened in Benghazi into one of the most heated issues of the presidential campaign.
Beyond the controversy over who said what are bigger issues. Next, Special Report investigates what Benghazi reveals about President Obama's foreign policy.